Welcome to the Big Mike Fun Podcast, where you'll learn about advanced wealth building strategies from real estate investing to creating massive ROI and secured retirement profits. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, grab a notepad, and lean in, because Big Mike has got the mic. Starting now.
Welcome to the Big Mike Fun Podcast. I'm the Big Mike Zlatnik. Today it is my pleasure and a privilege to welcome Andy Gurczak. Am I pronouncing it correctly, Andy?
You are. You actually said it perfectly. Yeah. Good job, Mike. Thank you.
And it's you originally come from sort of the part of the world, Eastern Europe, where I grew up too. You grew up in Poland. I grew up in Moldova, so a little different. But tell us a little bit about you, Andy. You are CEO and founder of AllCity Adjusting. But before we jump into insurance adjusting business, the challenges and the opportunities there. Tell folks a little bit about you, you obviously where you grew up, when did you come to the States, and a little bit about you and your family.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. We immigrated to the States in '99. I was about 10 years old. Came here, and had the opportunity. My parents obviously did it for us. So we had the opportunity to kind of live a better life, and that's what's kind of happened. In the meantime, went to school, worked in construction, met someone that kind of taught me the industry of public adjusting, and started AllCity Adjusting. It's been I think over 10 years now. Have a family, have 2 boys, 1 more boy on the way, so it'll be 3 of them. 2 more, I'll have a basketball team. That's kind of how I look at it. So when it comes to AllCity Adjusting, we advocate for the insured. So our majority of our clients, our portfolio is going to be investors, landlords, business owners, and that kind of group.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you have a blessed family. That's wonderful. And
yeah,
I never heard this. If you have a couple more, you have five boys, it'd be a basketball team.
I used to joke around, right? So I'm a big soccer fan that if I have 11, I'll have a soccer team. We ain't getting to 11, but 5, you never know. I don't
know. Well, God bless. So that's wonderful. Where's home? Where do you live?
Yeah, so we're out of Crown Point, Indiana, which is right outside of Chicago, right outside of Illinois. Grew up in Illinois. We moved out to Indiana. I have been out here. Now we take care of. We are in 23 states, so we're licensed from California to New York to Florida. Probably the 23 most busiest states when it comes to claims we're in.
That's great. So AllCity Adjusting, you're a public adjuster. You work for the insured when they have an insurance claim, and you deal with insurance company to justify better payment. Let's go to the basic of the process.
Correct.
So just explain what happens when you get engaged to work on a project. What do you do?
Yeah. So for your insurance, they're always going to ask, right? Like, why would I hire someone, or why would I call Andy or a private adjuster when the insurance company is going to send someone, right? They're going to assign a public or adjuster. You have to always remember we're advocating for the insured. We represent the insured. We do everything for the insured against the insurance, because the insurance company has a team, right? And everyone that works for that team is on their side. Whether it's the agent, the adjuster, their vendors, everyone's getting paid by the insurance company. So everyone's looking out. They can't represent both parties. So they're looking out for the insurance interest. And that's the bottom line dollar. Whereas we come in and our interest is to not only maximize the claim, to get a large settlement for our client, but also to speed up the process and make sure there is no red flags, there is no delays in the claims process. Because, not only is it going to be a larger sum, but if your claim gets settled in 2 months instead of 6 months or 8 months, I mean, that's huge for an investor, right? Not only to get your money fixed, you get your building, you get revenue coming in, but now you have extra money to buy more properties.
Yeah, that's absolutely great points. And I just wanted to comment from my experience with insurance companies, they're bloodsuckers. I mean, they're terrible. At least everything I've seen, they do. The whole goal is to delay. And as you had a insurance claim, you had some damage, something happened, a hurricane went through, or some other event, you had a fire, and you need cash to repair the property as soon as possible. So the speed to getting cash is critical just as much as maximizing the value, because you have a mortgage to pay. What often happens, I've seen projects, even in these crazy days of increased interest rates, hurricane passes through, damages the property, and the insurance company takes too long, and the interest rates rise, and you were in a bridge loan, and now you have to pay much high interest rates. So the impact of time value of money is just humongous, and getting a fair settlement is critical, because insurance company, like you said, their adjuster ain't going to do the work for the insured. They're going to do the least they can. So it's almost crazy, the difference in the outcomes of having an adjuster versus not having an adjuster.
Yeah, crazy would not be using an adjuster to have one on your team. That's like, again, getting in a car accident, you hitting someone and going to court and not getting an attorney to represent you, right? The same thing. I mean, you have to have someone on your team. If people can understand that you're dealing with billion dollar companies. I mean, they're huge. They have the top attorneys, they have the top engineers, and everyone works for them and is getting paid. And if they don't do what the insurance companies dictate, they're not going to be their vendor. They're not going to be on their program. So you have to look who's on your team, who's going to represent you, who's going to actually look out for you. And again, you're dealing with a process that you've never dealt with before. And if you did, I'll tell you what, in 10 years, no claim has been the same as in previous claim. Every claim, it's different on its own merit. It's a total different. There's no similarities between the claims. So if you've never handled it, how are you going to proceed doing it yourself?
Agreed, and I'm totally on board that not getting an adjuster is a crazy thing to do. So let's assume for the moment that folks have an event, again, a fire, a hurricane passes through, a tornado, and whatever the event, damages the property. Could be small residential or multifamily, or small or large, or office or shopping plaza or self-storage. So when they engage you, how does it work? Typically, do you work on commission, or how does it work? Just so it's pretty clear that you basically, your interest is aligned with the insured, and do you work on improving it? Let's use an example. Insurance company offers $1 million in settlement on a damage, right? And you come in and say, I will improve that. Do you work on a portion of the improvement, above $1 million? How does that work?
That's a great question, Mike. So both scenarios, right? For our new clients that come in, usually people will come in. It's majority of the clients that will come in and get on our team is when they'll call, usually because they've got an offer, it's low, there's something wrong. And then so we'll do it's always contingent, right? So our fee is contingent on what we recover. So it is a flat percentage, but if we don't get anything for our clients or nothing extra, there is no fee. So we have to do our due diligence and make sure we can actually bring value to our client. So for example, that you've already received $1 million, we would look at that claim and say, okay, well, we know there's another 2 million we can get you. So we would charge a fee on that amount that we get you extra. So nothing that you received, but on everything extra above that. And then that fee would start at 10%. Usually when we're doing the contingent on above extra, it might be 15, 20. But then for majority of our clients that have been with us, our investors, our business owners that call us on different properties, it's always a flat 10% because they're calling us day one. They're not even filing without us. They'll call and say, I had this happen, should we file? Can you inspect it? Obviously, if it's a fire, we're filing the claim day one. There's no questions asked, right? But when it comes to storm damage, we'll do inspections for our clients to make sure that if they're going to file, we have a high chance of winning and that the claim is going to go well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's almost like if you have a car accident and you're not going to go file a court case without an attorney. It's almost unthinkable. It's not impossible. I mean, you can go to small claims court. But with the insurance companies, I've seen people filing claims directly, and they obviously leave so much money on the table. It's not even funny. But let's now go to the flat fee, 10%. To me, it sounds very reasonable, right? I mean, you either get maybe 15, 20% above certain level, or you get a smaller flat fee on the whole exercise. So how do you go through the process? You get engaged at the very beginning. Is this a repeatable process that you follow every time there is a claim of certain type, or do you basically consult with some other experts depending on the type of property? Because one is a residential property, just an example, single family, duplex, quad, triplex, or you go to multifamily, it's 100 doors or 200 doors, or you go into self-storage. I don't know what damage would be in a self-storage, some kind of a fire, or something else. Is there a different process for different asset type?
Is there a different process when it comes to filing claims? Yes. When it comes to obviously signing you as a client, no, we have our standard contracts in every state. Some states govern contracts, some don't. We use usually the same template in every state. We send the contract. Once it's signed, that's when we start working. When it comes to the procedure, it's always different, right? Because, like, for example, most residential policies are pretty much the same. You have your HO2, HO3, HO5. So we know the policies. We'll look through them, but they're pretty much similar. We'll just look if you have what kind of coverages you have. When you really start distinguishing is when you get into the commercial side. Those policies are different, right? For example, we had a fire, a client had his truck business burned down, or a large complex that had storm damage. What we're going to do is look in the policy and see, do they have any exclusions or any other endorsements or anything we should be looking out? Because maybe it's not worth them filing a claim, or it's not even beneficial. Right now, with those large complexes and multi-unit buildings, they're doing really large deductibles. And what they're trying to do is defer those insureds from filing a claim. Because if you have a large deductible, your exterior only makes so much of the damage, so much of the premium or the limit you have on your property. It might not be worth filing a claim. So that's kind of you start distinguishing between the properties and looking at the policies and what's in the policy.
Yeah, makes sense. These exclusions are crazy. I've heard some obscene situations where insurance companies find ways not to pay a large claim by saying, is it a water damage or a wind damage? And the coverage, the insurance might cover water or wind damage, but if a hurricane goes through, right, it's kind of crazy. I don't know if you've seen these cases, but hurricane goes through and the wind damage is covered, and the water damage is an exclusion or a separate sub policy. And if you didn't have that coverage, they're going to say, hey, most of the damage is linked to the water. So how do you battle these type of arguments with the insurance company? Because the wind, it's a hurricane that drove the water through the form of a rain, or sometimes push the flood, the storm surge to flood the property. So I'm just curious, like, how have you dealt with these situations? And
of course. When we can get in front, when we're in the beginning starting the claim for our clients, we're leading the case, right? So the way we discuss the loss and describe what happened gets a loss covered. Because, for example, you had a broken pipe, right, in your house. Again, broken pipe doesn't come to someone's mind, right? All you're going to call your insurance and say, I had a flood. I had water running everywhere. We got a bunch of water. There was a flood. You didn't have a flood. You had a broken pipe. Flood is not covered. Broken pipe is covered, right? So we get calls all the time when people have been denied because all they did was just use the wrong words. So if we're taking one of those claims that you just discussed, if we're handling it from the beginning, then we have a leg up. Then we know how to proceed and get the right experts in there. What's hard is when we get calls, and this happens all the time, is, hey, it's been 6 months, my claim is denied. Okay, what happened? Well, they sent out an adjuster, then another adjuster. Now they sent out 2 engineers. So now we look at all the documents, and it's our word against 4 different, 2 experts, 2 engineers, and 2 adjusters. What do you do, right? Those are hard to overturn. You really need good experts. So then it's going to be on the insured. You want to hire an independent expert, bring him in, and it still doesn't guarantee us anything because now he's going to have to overturn those 2 engineers' opinions. So it gets very complicated in those types of claims.
Yeah, makes sense. I've seen some ugly insurance delay strategies. So how do you deal with it if insurance company is effectively just delaying, getting another adjuster, getting another party, just taking the time to find every opportunity to delay, obviously coming up with lowball numbers. You're coming up with strong numbers and they're coming in with lowball numbers. How do you settle with them? How do you, because it's a matter of opinion, and they're experts saying, hey, this renovation will cost $1 million, and your estimates, the renovation will cost $2 million. So it's a big difference. Again, so I'm just using any multifamily property.
Of course.
Yeah. How do you force a settlement? How do you force them to pay up sooner and pay up more? What do you do?
When it starts with the estimate, Mike, it's having a team of experts. Like, we've built a team of people. Our senior estimator was a large loss adjuster for one of the biggest insurance companies. He traveled the world for them. He was one of the top ones. So he's with our company. So having credibility and having the right documents and being able to support your case is how you get claims paid, right? On residential claims, there's so much you can. They're going to lowball everyone, right? But those are easier cases to prove. Really, where we'll shine is on the commercial side, because they don't have enough manpower. They don't have enough adjusters that have the knowledge, because they're taking away those senior guys that have been doing it for years, and they're letting them go, and they're bringing in all these young adjusters and just giving them computers. So they're coming in, they have no idea what they're looking at. And each commercial property is built differently. Whether we're doing, for example, a fire at a church, right? I mean, you're talking a whole different build. We had to, it took us weeks just to figure out how the roof was composed from the bottom to the top, because it was so intriguing, the builder that originally built it. So, right, those properties, that original adjuster that came out to that property actually wrote a really quick estimate. It said, hey, if they take it, great. Otherwise, this is the best I can do. And then we got hired. They brought in another expert to consult with us. And
yeah, makes sense. So I guess it's the expert versus expert opinion and justifying the case. And do you ever wind up litigating? I'm just curious.
Correct.
Insurance companies can say, hey, listen, this is our opinion. This is our offer. Take it or leave it. And you think it's worth more. What do you do then?
Yeah. So we'll always try to exhaust all our options. We'll keep going as far as we can. We'll push the claim and really work every angle we can. Then we have the appraisal process that every policyholder has, that they can go appraisal if there's a disputed amount. And then, 2% of our claims will go to litigation, because unfortunately, even though we've proved our case and we know we're right, they'll just stone block. They'll just say, nope, we're not doing anything else. So then the insured has no option, right? And then we'll send a couple referral of attorneys. The insured has the right to choose any attorney they want. Our case is built for litigation. And when I say that, I don't mean we build our case just to present it to go to litigation, but we build it that if it does go to litigation, there's proof of bad faith. There's proof of this claim should have been paid. So the attorney then has a case ready to move forward. So when our attorneys see our case, they'll take cases on contingency just like us. So the clients aren't paying anything up front, because again, the attorney's taking the contingency on our file that they'll win with presenting everything to them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and the contingency payment obviously helps, because one of the biggest concerns, one of the deterrents to litigate, is that if it's a small dollar amount, case. An example would be, house fire, and you believe it's worth, $400,000 is a damage that needs to be covered, and the insurance company offers $200,000 spread. A full litigation, just to go through a full process, may cost $200,000. I mean, sometimes litigations take very long time and substantial amount of money. So litigating for small amounts. So this is an example of $200,000. What if the delta is, I don't know, $50,000? It becomes very difficult to litigate. Doesn't make any economic sense. So I guess only few larger cases are worth potentially litigating. So
and different states have different laws, right? Some states are more friendly, and there's more laws, bad faith, punitive damages. Some states like Illinois, there's not much an attorney can hang on. If the case isn't a large enough or a large amount, it's hard for them to take the small cases, and I see why. Because there's nothing. I mean, by the time they get paid and everyone gets paid, the client's going to be left with nothing.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I know some cases, laws have changed. I'll give you an example of Florida, and you said you do business in Florida.
Yes.
Florida, a lot of companies just decided to pull out our business because I think Florida is friendly against litigation.
Yes.
Against the insurance companies, and it's crazy. The insurance premiums are through the roof, and companies don't want to do business in Florida for the reasons that it's just a very difficult state for the insurance companies to do business in. So there are a few state-owned insurance companies, but it's kind of like, I guess you got to know the market before you.
Of course. And if they paid fairly and they handled things fairly, there would be no litigation.
course.
The claims for litigation happens because they're acting in bad faith. They're not paying claims the way the public adjuster business, the sector. I mean, I think it's doubling every year in terms of how many people are actually getting into the public adjusting business, having their license, because again, there's just so much bad faith. There's just so much bad claim handling that it's making litigation, or attorneys and public adjusters just bringing in more work for us.
Yeah, I hear you. At least my observation is that insurance premiums are going up and up and up, and then the payment process is getting more and more difficult. It's almost like insurance companies are in the business of marketing, getting the revenues, and on the other side, they just don't want to pay claims. It's almost ridiculous how difficult can it be. And I've seen enough cases where it is a multi-year battles on commercial projects. And in the meanwhile, you got a situation where you got to, pay the mortgage, and you have to keep the property afloat. Meanwhile, the insurance company is the vampire who sucked out all the blood, and they don't want to pay. And it is not a fun situation to. It's a long battles from time to time. I mean, I've seen them, and I don't think it's getting better. Like you said, that just more and more people are required to be fighting insurance companies. It's almost a crazy. It's kind of it is a common sense, but at the same time, it is not. It's like this: when you're buying insurance, and I've gone through the process on a personal level and on projects. People battle, what do? Do they go with the least expensive option, an insurance company that's just, you don't know if they're going to pay and how difficult they're going to pay, versus there are more expensive options. And you would think that a more expensive option pays better, but not necessarily. I've seen the expensive options put up a big fight too.
Every carrier is putting up a big fight. And you actually said something earlier, but you asked me, how do we help? You were asking about the estimate writing or presenting the case in terms of settling an amount, but also how to speed up the process, right? Or so it's not getting delayed. Well, the one thing we can't do, or no attorneys can do, and it's very frustrating that we're seeing, is they're putting people under oath, right? And investigating clients. And there's nothing you can do to speed up that process, because there's nothing in statutes in the states that say you have to, they have so much time to investigate, right? And they'll hire an attorney, put under oath. The attorney is going to take 3-4 months to do an under oath, investigate it. There's no timeline. And it's all we can do is kind of push it, follow up, and say, what's going on? When is this going to when can we expect stuff? And really just push our file to the top. But there's no statutes to hold them to. So when they turn it over to a third party like that, it's like they know that now they got all the time in the world.
Yeah, that's a very disturbing point. I guess this is something that insurance companies use all the time to stall the case by investigating whether the owner caused the fire, right? Which is as crazy as it sounds. It's a legitimate pretense that they want to make sure they're not getting defrauded. At the same time, these attorneys' job is not necessarily to do anything other than delay, and especially if they get paid per hour. They want to clock their own hours of work. It's a painful, very painful point in the process.
That's one tactic, and then you have the other tactic they use now is, instead of having adjusters, right? Because adjusters have to be licensed, and they're held to a different standard in most states. Well, now they're like, well, why do we hire adjusters or have our own? We'll just hire consultants or contractors, vendors, they call them, right? Because consultant will come, give his estimate or give his opinion, and they're like, well, this is our estimate. Well, he's wrong, or he's doing this. Well, he's not an adjuster. He's just our consultant. So they're clearing their hands basically by hiring all these third-party non-adjusters to do their dirty work, because no one can hold them. You can't call the Department of Insurance on them. They're a consultant. They're not an adjuster. They're not independent. They're not. There's a loophole there.
Yeah, I appreciate all these insider knowledge, information, or the pain points of what insurance companies do, and I guess that's why it's so much more important for folks to use an adjuster like you to help with their process. So how would folks get a hold of you? Is there a website for AllCity Adjusting? What's the best way? reach out.
For your listeners, if they even just type in AllCity Adjusting to Google, they can Google they can go on our website, allcityadjusting.com. They can catch us on other podcasts on Facebook. And for your listeners, I'll leave them with my direct line. They can call if they have questions, even to look over a policy. We do that for insureds when they call us, new clients. We'll look through their policies, make sure there's any exposed liabilities. But yeah, I can be reached at 708-655-4186, 708-655-4186. That's literally my direct number. I can, help anyone out as much as I can so far.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Appreciate you sharing very interesting information. And it is an important topic. It's not a fun topic to deal with when you have an insurance claim, but when you do, I think this type of help is critical to the success of the claim. So thank you again for sharing.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on. And it's good to get the word out. It seems like it's getting more and more out there where people are getting more aware that this is what's happening in their insurance world, and they actually know that there's someone out there to help them. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Big Mike Fund Podcast. To receive your copy of Mike's How to Choose a Smart Real Estate Fund book, head to BigMikeFund.com or visit Amazon and type Mike's slot dig. Keep listening and keep investing Big Mike style. See you on the next episode.